Story time. Story time. Welcome into story time. Story time. Yeah. Enjoy. Okay, guys. Last minute, I decided I'm gonna turn this episode with this shirt, the shelter episode into two because it's so long. So welcome back to the channel again. Same shirt, same day. Just gonna bring them apart. And this will be the second half of that episode.
Alright guys, due to the nature of this particular video, episode 9, aka 8.5, because the last one was too long, it's gonna be slightly different. So the recap, we know by this point I had been in the first shelter and I had gone to Florida to do Generation After 2. Alright, let's get back to the rest of the story.
So obviously I was still working at Smoothie King, and I was able to get the week off, whatever amount of time to go. And because I was a good employer, she had to let me go. And I still got to get my job, and I returned. I was supposed to go to work. But let's say I returned on a Sunday. I had to go to work on Monday. So I have to text her Sunday night, letting her know I returned X, Y, and Z, and practically I don't have somewhere to stay right now. So I slept at the airport that night, like on the bench, like as if I was waiting for a flight. And I was like, tomorrow I'm going to go to another place and hope that I can get in. So I found another shelter, mad far, and like a whole another city, because I was staying in Atlanta, Midtown, I think. Well, that's where the first shelter was. And I found another shelter, a whole nother city, like a suburban city. And go the next day, it was a smaller place that looks like a little church house. And that one was a co-ed one. Like the male were, I think, upstairs and the females were downstairs. Women and children, single woman was on one side, women and children on another side. And that one was much smaller, much more intimate, but a little bit less disorganized and less pretty. Oh, I failed to mention, when I was at the first shelter, that's when I did, I've been trying to get in that show for the long time, Greenleaf, and I finally got to be an extra on Greenleaf. That was super cool. And I want to say I was also able to be on Sunday's Best, but I can't remember if that was at the first shelter or the second shelter. Don't remember. But anyways, I got to be an extra on Greenleaf. I have a picture for proof. That was super fun. And I remember when I told everybody that I was going to do that, everybody was so supportive and they were so excited for me and like getting me prepared. And it was like, for the first time, I felt like a sense of community, because like while there were crazy people there, people with mental health issues, there were also people with PhD, authors, once a best-selling author, people who were once rich and who went through a bad divorce, people who moved and something did not go accordingly. There were like, the stories were interesting of why someone is in the situation that they were. And it was like, you really shouldn't judge somebody based on the situation that they are, because you really don't know who they are and who they used to be and where they headed. So that was pretty cool. But anyway, so back to second shelter, and and I'm much further away from work. So trying to get to work was really bad. I remember the first time I had to try to get to work, I didn't know that their bus was like a different, like ran differently than what I was used to. So when it was time for me to get to work, it wasn't until I looked at the schedule and realized like I couldn't. And then so I called my boss and was like, well, I can't get to work because X, Y, and Z. And she was like, okay, where are you? I'm gonna Uber you. So she Ubered me to work, because by this point I was opening the store and I had to be there by like 6 o'clock to open the store by 6:30. And I'm in a whole different city. So, and the bus doesn't run that early. So she Ubered me to work. But that day, I remember when I walked from the bus stop back to the shelter, I was so mad. I was crying. Y'all, when I tell you I was angry, I was so mad. Like, I don't remember all that I was saying, but I was really yelling like God, like, why do you allow this to happen? And this, that, and the third. Tears coming down my eyes, and it's cold. And I'm just like, was it cold? Why was that cold? Because this had to have been by this point, like, at least in August. Or my birth in August, I think. In August. Oh, one thing I forgot to say, like when for the second shelter, when I got in, they had way better food, by the way. Way better food. I was excited to come home and eat. They always save food for people who had a job and who missed the time of lunch, and they had plates for us. But that's besides the point. We also get social work with them too. So it kind of ran the same, but like just smaller and a little bit more intimate. And getting up early, having to like Uber to get to work was like, ugh, so bad. Like, and then with that one, there was way more. It felt like there was more ratchetness happening because I could never sleep, so I was always tired. And I had a bunk again, but however, my bed, whoever had it, I guess left before their time, and that's why there was a bed available for me. I have the badge. I think I'm gonna insert the picture in there. So that was one thing. Anyway, so like that day I was going to work for the first time from that shelter. Like I was just crying and I was just mad. Then my Uber showed up and I was like, wiped my tears, got in the Uber and went. The guy was like, how you doing? I was like, I'm fine. It's one of those days. And we had a whole conversation, pulled up at work. Like I wasn't just crying. I get to work, all hell break loose. Our system is down. A lot of craziness was happening. A pipe blew up, and I'm like, oh, so it's one of those days. The enemy think he's gonna come for me and trying to come after my faith. I see what's going on, and it's kind of like put on new faith on, and we're trying to fight because you're not gonna get me. That was that day, and from that time it was kind of like another, like a second wind of faith, and just every day moving forward trying to go through that. But obviously with this shelter they have specific 30-day time frame. You're working with the social worker who's trying to help you, and I'm trying to see and the pressure here was what's gonna happen after these 30 days. Am I gonna have to start from ground zero? Is there any other shelter that would host me? What's happening? Is my bunkmate doing her part? Like trying to figure out, like praying is like, is it even worth going in with her because she didn't keep her word the first time? What if she doesn't keep her word now, or she does keep her word now and we move in together, but can I even trust her? And then as the days get closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to my exit, my mom calls me and asks, where are you in Georgia? And I told her. She said, because your sister's moving to Georgia, to that side, closer to Atlanta. Is it going to be close that you guys can be together? I'm like, what? She was like, yeah. So I called my sister and I told her. Now, I think when I was in the first shelter, they ended up knowing that I was, because there was like something was happening and she was coming down and blah, blah, blah. So I think they knew. I don't know if she had told my mom. I don't know. But that's not important. The important part is she ended up moving she was moving because she was getting a job closer to that side where I was. And I asked her and she said yes. And she and my social worker talked and blah, blah, blah. And they were able to confirm that I can move in with her. And so they planned my exit. Cool. We Gucci, whatever. Although we were together, we hadn't found a place. She hadn't found a place that she liked to rent yet. And obviously, since it was 2 of us versus 1, she was looking for more like a 2-bed, 2-bath, whatever. And I was still working for Smoothie King. She was still Ubering me to work every day. I had to open the store, and that was getting expensive, okay? Because she didn't want to lose me because I would do my job. Anyways, so eventually, me and my sister, we doing hotels after hotels after hotels until she can find a place, and we ended up finding. Oh, and right before that happened, I think what happened, and I don't know how we got to this conclusion, but I was telling my boss that where my sister is planning to look for is gonna be so away that I won't have ability to public transportation to get to work. And you can no longer Uber me because eventually she wasn't able to Uber me. But because we're at hotels, I was able to get on the hotel's transportation that takes people to the airport. From the airport, train myself, get on the train to get to work and back and forth. So that was interesting. Um, and then So eventually, I knew I wasn't going to be able to stay there because where we were trying to move to be closer to my sister's job wouldn't be feasible for me to still work there. But obviously, she makes the money and I'll be staying with her. We doing it based on her, what makes more sense for the person who's bringing the bread. So it's kind of like if you get in a marriage and we both work, but let's say your spouse get a big job and it won't be feasible for both you and your spouse to work, somebody's gonna have to quit, and obviously it's gonna be the one that makes more sense financially or whatever that works for you guys' lifestyle. So that was clear, and somewhere that I got an invitation to an internship for American Film Market that would be in LA, and that in itself is a whole story which I will remove from this story to make it its own story. But anyways, eventually I had to resign from Smoothie King. I think right before I went to the internship. And eventually while I was at the internship, we had found a place that was close enough for my sister and that she loved, that I liked. And the way, if that even happened, it felt like it was like God making a whole miracle. It ended up being like a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, gorgeous kitchen, beautiful, 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 huge space. And this is what felt like a palace for me because I've been literally used to like all these craziness of sheltering that literally felt like a palace. But what's funny is I literally slept in the closet of the office space for no reason at all. And that was maybe towards the end of the year, maybe around this time, in 2019. And once I got there, I was settled, thanking God and still making plans to stay in Georgia and trying to understand what God wants me to do from here and looking for jobs and all that and all that. So that was kind of like the end and the wrapping of my 2019. Obviously family came, my mom, blah, blah, blah. I failed to mention that when I did the second, when did this happen? When I did the second film, I shot in the summer, we ended up premiering it in September. We premiered it in September while me and my sister were still hoteling. So I was out of the shelter by this point. And the day of that premiere was the weekend of my birthday. I was turning 30. So that was in 2019. Yeah, I was turning 30. And I knew, I skipped so many parts. While I was in the shelter, I remember one day, the first shelter, I was so mad. And I was asking God, why does everything have to be a fight? And I remember there was this particular devotion that called the Daughters of the King that I had removed from my phone, uninstalled, because one day it was like before I started this journey, it was talking about somehow God is calling me to nations and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, not me. So I uninstalled it. So while I was at the shelter, I realized like I may need this devotion or else I'm going to lose my mind. So the day where I was like, God, why is everything a fight? I opened the devotion. He was like, because he calls you Princess Warrior. I remember that happening. And I remember one of the things that devotion kept saying was like, your biggest struggle is the story God will use. And I was like, no, like it will be your biggest testimony God will use. I'm like, no, I don't want to tell nobody about this experience. I never want to talk about this ever again. So when I did that premiere in September while we were hoteling, one of the questions I was asked, I remember the night before, something like that came up again, where your biggest struggle will be your testimony and you will have to share it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I didn't say anything. I said, okay, God. At the premiere, usually there's a question that I ask. If somebody asks a question that requires me to answer, then I'll share partial of it. And fair enough, the very last question, somebody asked me a question that forced me to answer. I realized, and I don't remember what the question was, but I took a lot of time to think about it. I'm like, the reason why I'm having such a hard time is because I'm trying to give you the right answer. But I think the right answer is this. I realized how much strength I had because I was willing to shelter in order to keep pushing regarding this. And everybody was just like, what? You did what? And nobody knew. And then I turn around and my whole cast is like crying. And it's like, what are you guys crying for? Like, this was past. Like, I mean, it just happened, but it's past. Whatever. So that had happened. But anyways, so by this point, the cat was out of the bag, I think, and people knew that I had this experience, but I never went into details of what happened. And here we are, what, 2019 to 2020, 2021, 2 years later, and I'm here telling my story. It was a setup, and God knew, but I wasn't trying to. But anyways, so that's why I'll end this. This is way longer than I expected it to be, but there's so much, like so much has happened, guys, in the past. At least in the past 4 years, so much has happened that you wouldn't think that one person has gone through all this. But I still came out with my faith, more strength, more belief in myself. I got to see me experience and survive and still believe God now more than ever, and know that where there's a will, there's a way, and there's always a solution to something. It may not be the expected end, it might not be the solution that you want, but there is a way to make something, to survive. I have been surviving the past couple of years, and I think I'm finally at a season where it's like, yeah, let's step back and let's strategize so we can thrive. But anyways, that'll be the end of this video. See you in the next video. That's probably going to be the LA one about the craziness. It's probably going to be short, but I still need it to have its own video. So see you guys in the next video. Deuces.
Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you put your bell notification on, and don't you forget to share with everybody. Bye.